First of all, thank you all for coming. I think this is something that what Jen and Melissa was doing is great to let members of PGA know something about what they don't know, basically. To quote someone who I'm really not real fond of, there are things that we do know, there are things that we don't know, and then there are things that we don't know that we don't know. Part of it had a lot of it has to do with safety. Rules, regulations, OSHA, laws, California laws, some of which, hey, if you're an employer in California, you go do a show in Romania, guess what? You still have to follow Cal OSHA laws. A lot of people go, really? Where's Romania and OSHA? Good luck with that. But part of that was going to be, okay, heat illness and other things you have to do for your crews. The IA crews are getting trained in what they need to know. They're required to take their training classes. Non-union crews, not so much, but you as an employer, you're still obligated to make sure that they are safety trained for a particular task that they might have to do. Operating cranes, on a boom lift, scissor lifts, all that stuff. So, and as we've learned from other past rather horrible experiences, you don't want to get untrained people behind 32,000 pounds of moving steel. It turns out badly. So this is one of hopefully many of these classes or seminars where we'll talk about what it is that you should know going into a show. Thankfully, we've had the opportunity to invite these three gentlemen here with me who know everything about their particular fields, and they're going to enlighten us more about that. We're going sort of off of just the general safety topics of knowing fall protection and knowing perhaps how to use a fire extinguisher. Someone in your set should, but you got to be trained, you got to be authorized. In this instance, we have stunt and special effects and marine work here. All things can be highly dangerous, but they're all staples of our industry also. They're the things that put butts in the seats in the theaters to get people there to go, oh wow, isn't that cool? So, without further ado, to my immediate right, Captain Troy Waters is a actor, marine coordinator, stuntman, camera operator, just everything has to do with water and stuff. With shows from Titanic to War of the Worlds, Pirates of the Caribbean, multiple entrants of that. Working with directors like Gore Verbinski and Ron Howard, Steven Spielberg, Martin Scorsese, and good old Jim Cameron, who's been known to put everything to the test when it comes to movies. To Troy's right is Mark Donaldson, the head of the president of the Stuntmen's Association, also a stuntman, stunt coordinator, second unit director, just whatever stunt-wise, and all safety oriented. Remarkable safety record there. Doing just a slew of pictures, everything from Pirates of the Caribbean, Air Force One, The Muppets, one of my favorites, Perfect Storm, and many others. Having worked also with notable directors like Clint Eastwood, Tim Burton, Jerry Bruckheimer, and of course, The Muppets. So, and to his right,
which is a lot of fun.
Yeah, they don't talk back. You just put them in that thing. And then to Mark's right is Nick Plantico. Stuntman, stunt coordinator, special effects coordinator, pyro fiend, animal wrangler, second unit director, producer, gun wrangler. I mean, many capabilities all rolled up into one person. They're also a fire safety officer, which, as those of you who've had shoots know, that sometimes those three letters, the FSO, can be the most terrifying thing you're ever going to hear. Uh-oh, the FSO, or the authority having jurisdiction, is coming, and we have to, hide the children and the orphans and everything else. But so Nick has background in all of that. So we're going to use some of these questions that Jen and Melissa put together to kind of enlighten about what it is that they know that you need to know, and you may not know that you don't know. Okay? So with that, just let them each talk a little bit about themselves also before we get into the questions here. So, Troy, I have some personal background.
I've been in the production industry for well over 20 years. I'm a professional mariner by trade, so if I'm not actually on a production, I'm driving a tugboat, driving a pilot boat, working in some manner in the marine industry, which I think bodes well for working in the production world, because I stay up on top of maritime regulations, maritime law, stay in sync with the Coast Guard. And,
They want to piss them off.
do not want to piss them off. They're the ones who control. They exercise jurisdiction over our production shoots on any navigable water in the United States. So we have to work closely with them.
And Mark?
Don't know if I have a whole lot to say. I had to find a career that I could play all my life, and I've been fortunate to do that. Moved out here to pursue a dream, and I think I'm getting there. I really do. It's
Stick with it.
I'm gonna try. Stick with it, kid, huh?
Keep the day job.
As he mentioned, president of Stuntmen's Association, which is the oldest stunt organization in Hollywood. It was actually the organization that back in the early '60s, the stuntmen needed to be organized, and where a production could know where to go to get qualified stunt people to do the stunts that they needed. And back then there weren't that many stunt people around. Productions in the early '60s, a heyday of television, prime time, stunt guys would work 3 to 4 shows a day, and productions would set their schedule according to the stuntman's schedule that they needed. So if he was at Universal, he would hop from stage to stage during the day. And now within just Hollywood itself, there's 4 professional men's stunt organizations and 3 women's organizations.
And Nick, who stunts, effects, animals, and all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff.
Been doing stunts for almost 32 years. June will be 32 years. It's not really a conflict of interest. I got into special effects about 5 years into it, doing a war movie where the guy blew me up twice. And I decided I better learn that. I own a company that we provide all action services, stunts, effects, weapons, animals, all kinds of stuff. While I am an FSO, don't hold that against me, I'm actually one of the guys that certifies the state FSOs and the county and city. We teach the class to teach them kind of a little bit of what we're going to be talking to you guys about, because they don't know either. And if they're going to govern you, then they need to have an idea of what we're going to be doing. So we teach them about stunts, we teach them about special effects, we teach them about safety stuff that's outside what they would normally have as a firefighter.
Okay, so I think we've established, we have a wealth of knowledge and experience and everything else. And so you, from the producing end, are gonna go, yeah, I wanna do a movie, I wanna make a lot of money, I wanna blow stuff up, I wanna do a lot of effects, right? Because effects are sort of really becoming the mainstay of the industry. I mean, of the top 50 movies, 46 are all visual effects or special effects oriented. I come from a background of visual effects myself. It used to be, it was always big stunts and bigger and bigger and better, and people were getting hurt, people were getting killed, and they're always trying to do that. Now we have digital, we have other things that will do it. But to go back to the roots, to what these 3 gentlemen do with boat chases and underwater work and blowing stuff up, which is always fun, especially kids' birthday parties. But the bigger the blast, the better, and it's just so cool. So this is what they do. So, you know, you got a treasure trove of info here, and if we can, at the end, we're going to try and get into some of your questions, but we have some great ones that Jim and Liz put together. And one of the first ones I want to direct basically to all of you, because producers are going to come to you with questions about how do I blow this up, or how do I set the house on fire, or whatever. What are the questions that you ask of the job, of the employer, of the producer? We'll just take it maybe down the line here.
Well, as far as on the marine end, some of the first things that I've got to find out about are location and time of year, because there are plenty of places in the world where, you know, they have very specific weather patterns, or, you know, other unfriendly sort of environments based on weather patterns. You know, Mississippi River in the springtime, the Caribbean pretty much all summer, Hudson River in December. So a lot of times that's the first thing I want to find out about, is what's the expectation of location and time of year, because, you know, quite often we have to start steering production in another direction sooner than later, just so we don't get to a location and find out, well, we can't do this at this time of year, because it's, you know, it's just very weather dependent. So location and weather for me are some of the first things I ask.
So a producer who may be going, well, I gotta work around George Clooney's schedule and this guy's only available then, they have probably bigger concerns of when they get the location, when they can make it safe with the weather and stuff like that. So that might be something where they wanna look into that a little bit earlier than what they're planning around someone else's schedule, or to make it all work. And good PMs, good producers do take all that into account. A lot of them just think, well, I read a book on producing over at UCLA, Outreach, and I'm gonna make a movie. My dad is putting up $200,000. I'm gonna make a movie. Unfortunately, there's so many young producers and camera people with GoPros and all these other things trying to do this. But these are the things that need to be taken into consideration. But again, you may not know that, the weather pattern and wherever have to do that. So, Mark, stunts being a big part of everything, and prep and safety is a huge thing. What do you ask of the producing team?
Well, as most of you know, we are hired by you as the stunt coordinator and or the second unit director. So our initial meetings normally start with the director. And when I talk to a director, I want to know what his vision for the movie is. What is he trying to accomplish there? And look at it from the safety standpoint of manpower, locations. Are we dealing with water? Because I have to start in my mind thinking of what people are the right people for the job. Where's the location? Is it going to be a really hard location? Because that's going to determine people that I hire and bring with me.
So if you cast your stunt people same way that the producers would cast their movie, someone's particular skills, talents, personalities.
And your doubles, your doubles, and what is the movie about? Is it a martial arts movie? So do I need, how long do I have to train your actors? Are your actors, you're doing an action movie and you have an actor who has no physical abilities whatsoever. How do I accomplish what I need to accomplish to make this actor look as best as possible for you? And when I have to put this person into that shot, or you have to put that person into the shot, how do I do it so it's safe for him, so we have him for the next shot? How can we shoot around this? What you'll find, biased personal opinion here, this is more a business from our point of view of personalities. There's 200 qualified stuntmen out there who could coordinate your movie. But which one works well personality-wise and communication-wise with your director? Because if you're not communicating, you're having all kinds of problems. So to me, from a producer's point of view, they ought not only look at someone's credits, male or female, but also sitting in the meetings with the director and you. How is that person communicating to you, and what is the feeling you're getting from this person? Again, we have tons of qualified people out there.
Kind of on that, one of the questions you might ask, Nick, and we've discussed this in the past, Nick and I go back quite a ways, is only the person who's still alive that has set me on fire, and so I trust him inherently, not with my wife. But do you ask the producers and say, okay, what about time frame? Because it's so rare that they want to give you something. Mark and I were also talking about earlier about like rehearsal time. They say, we're not going to do that. Yeah, we want the entire crew to stand around and watch us rehearse the stunt down, and it's costing more and more money. But in trying to get that rehearsal time ahead of principal photography or whatever, I'm sure you and Mark both, hit on this.
With dealing with directors, it's more about the creative. And a lot of times I'll say, okay, the script's great. What do you need to see? Because a lot of times what you've got written down, we could do it a different way and get you that shot. You may have written a really expensive way to do it or an impossible way to do it. When I'm dealing with producers, it's money. It's, do we have the money to do this? Do we have the time? Do we have the prep time? Not just rehearsals. If we're going to be wrecking 15 cars, do you guys have the money to put roll cages in 15 cars? Can you afford the safety guys? Are we wrecking them all at the same time, which is a couple of safety guys per car plus the drivers, plus the extra cameras? We have to balance what you can afford with what you want to see, and a good coordinator that has done a lot of stuff is usually someone that can give you options. And a lot of times bidding some of these indie shows, I will give them a shopping list. It's like, okay, this is everything you want. This is basically what it costs. Now, you have half of this money. Pick out what you want, and we'll try to fine tune it. We'll try to give you as much as we can, but we do need prep time. We do need rehearsal time, especially with actors. Like you talk about training the actors to fight, or training the actors to do sword work, or I've done music videos where they want to put the lead singer in a harness. It's not that pleasant, you know. So it's nice if I can get together with them ahead of time, fit them in the harness, make sure, you know, if we have to have one made for them, we will. Get them used to whatever they're going to do. On a feature film, same thing. We've had to teach actors how to drive. You know, Michelle Rodriguez didn't have a driver's license before Fast and Furious. They actually had to teach
Just
her.
slow and dangerous?
She was at that point, yeah. She did not have a license. She knew the basics of it, but they were smart. They took the prep time. They taught her how to drive. They made her safe. Of course, she had doubles doing a majority of it. Really, any movie, I've also produced features and stuff, any movie is made in pre-production. It really isn't. When you're on the set, you don't need to think about that anymore. It should already be done. Same with the stunts, same with the effects, same with the stuff. You need to know, okay, the water level's going to be here. We've got enough stunt guys. The cars are ready. All this has to be done ahead of time, and it's a big money discussion that has to happen with the producers, balancing the creative with what the director wants. The worst time, unless it's Clint Eastwood, is when you have a producer-director, because then he's fighting himself, because he wants everything, but he doesn't want to pay for it.
He wants to do it in 8 hours, too.
Yeah, he wants to do it under.
Clint can do that.
Well, he can. There's very few that can.
Yes.
But it really is. It's prep and communication. Before you call one of us to get your quotes and get your bids, do a little research. I mean, I've had guys call me up and say, "Hey, we want to blow this up and we want to do this and this and this," and I give them a price and they're like, "Are you kidding me?" I'm like, "No, that's what it costs." And there's a lot of costs outside. LA County, Orange County right now are charging a whole lot of money for fire permits. Used to be a rider. LA City is just a rider. Kern County, I'm doing a car sequence with a friend of mine. It's $126 for 1.4 miles of road. We had to rent the signs to block both ends of the road. No fire marshal, no nothing. He's bringing a water truck. He's having an ambulance on standby to do that. But you need to understand what all these little things cost. The police cost a lot of money. The fire marshal costs a lot of money. And don't be mean to him because he really doesn't get very much of it. It's just what's charged. But what seems simple, you need to have the educated people helping you set up the show ahead of time. Simple little things that you don't think about that the ADs are supposed to do, or the people that are doing the job. Shooting downtown, you want to do gunfire. You need to do a notification. If the police show up thinking it's a real gunfight, you're in trouble, it's going to cost you, and you may get shut down. Lacey Street, they just assume someone's going to return fire and do whatever they want down there. It's going to be hard in the hour and a half that we've got here, but it really is about communication and planning, all of it.
And again, or knowing that you don't know certain things. And I know I've worked on shows where we've had producers like, well, we're just going to get trash cars. We'll go to the junkyard, we'll put it there, we're going to burn it, we're going to, it's not so bad. There's a lot of work that all three of them, or boats or whatever, you've got to like train actors to drive a boat, I'm sure, right? So all of this thing that some people think, well, it looks so easy in the movie. Well, that's where the magic is happening, is that they're helping you to do your job and stay out of jail. Because I also had been on a show where we were doing a lot of helicopter stunts way back in the day, and you couldn't do things, and it was a show where they were flying a chopper between the Arco towers downtown. We do it on Sundays. And FAA would show up and say, no, you can't do that, shut it down. On the fourth Sunday, they took the director to jail, okay, because they're doing things we're supposed to do. So you do want to rely on the experience and the knowledge of all three and more people in our industry that have their particular tasks. But unfortunately, being a member of the PGA, I've talked to a lot of my co-members, and they go, "What the hell are you talking about? You don't have to do all that." And it's like, sure you do. You didn't at Loyola, where you just graduated from, but you do here. So now, on the flip side now, we're all three of you gentlemen, what are some of the common mistakes that you see producers make in trying to get the thing that might require your skill, but they're going, no, I want my cousin Vinny, can set himself on fire. He did it when we were kids. He doesn't have an arm anymore, but what do you see from the production end that you think is fairly common that needs to be addressed? Mark.
Oh yeah, put me on the hot seat right away. I think prep time, especially in this day and age right now where we're at with doing a lot of wire work, flying people, running them up walls, different things, the free runners and keeping them safe, that money spent again in rigging days to get everything set up, rehearsal, it's money so well spent, because when the company gets there, what a lot of stunt coordinators are doing now is, I mean, now we're shooting it with either the iPad or the iPhone, where a couple years ago we were doing cameras where we would set up, we would rehearse, we would shoot it, we would edit it, go show it to the director. What do you like, what do you not like? We have time to change it. We go back, we reshoot it, we re-edit it, show it, get it to where he wants it. Now when he comes in that day, he knows what he's getting. And a lot of times what you'll find is, from an established stunt person's point of view, they have so many man days that they've been on sets. They know the shots that probably the director's going to want. So a lot of times the director will actually use the footage that the stunt people shot in their rehearsal, and they'll stick their cameras in those places because they like what the stunt coordinator has done, and that comes with experience. That
Active animatic.
Yes.
Because rather than storyboard, they go, let's just duplicate that, go to lunch. And then Troy, I mean, not only on boats on the water, but you do a lot of underwater work also, right? So then you've got diving, you've got bends, you've got decompression, all these other factors to deal with.
Sure. And as far as the water work goes, you say what mistakes I've seen. It's not really necessarily mistakes as much as it is just trying to be financially responsible. A lot of productions these days tend to underboat a production, especially a big water feature or a big water TV show. We underboat it. Save a few dollars. And what we find out is we end up costing ourselves shots at the end of the day because we physically did not have the assets to move talent and camera and whoever around. So you have to weigh that early on in the beginning in the budgeting process to actually put more equipment out there, because you got to remember when you're working on the water, anything that has to be moved, if you want something moved, it's got to happen with a boat.
Yeah.
And same thing underwater, divers, anything moved, divers are moving them. You've got to make sure you have enough underwater departments working on an underwater shoot.
Troy, talk a little bit about just the amount of time it takes to film on water versus filming on land, because we've done enough shows together where
Sure.
you don't get that.
Sure. You could figure if you don't plan successfully, you could at least increase the time you need to do shots on the water by about 50%. So by that I mean if you think you've got a day's worth of shooting on the water, it becomes a day and a half worth of shooting. 2 days worth of shooting becomes 3 days. That's not always the case, and like I say, back to the point I was talking about, budgetarily, as long as you've got enough gear and you make a plan and you run the plan, you can get down to a point where you don't feel that extra time. And of course, a good AD will take this into account also, and he'll schedule your days that way, and you'll get your days.
I've got a little one that's a very specific one that we run into a lot. We're going to wreck a car. They want to flip a car. We have a big explosion. The car's doing a big flip, so we prep the car. It's got a roll cage. We show up with the ramp. And our ramp car, which is the car that normally is in front of the ramp to hide it, that we're going to blow up, was supposed to be stripped. And we get to the set, and there's a fuel tank in it, and batteries in it, and has oil and transmission fluid. It's not legal to drop a fuel tank on set. The fire department, fire marshal will shut you down for that. If we've requested that a certain thing be there, don't try to save $20, because the time that it takes, we've actually had to take vehicles off set to a vacant lot to prep them when they were supposed to come. I mean, it sounds small, but when it costs you 2 hours, that's a lot of money with a lot of people standing around. Especially because, for the most part, we make pretty decent hourly wage. Except when I work for Mark.
Yeah. On another adjective of that, I do a lot of work with condors, lighting rigs, stuff like that, grips and electrics rigging. Production managers, some production managers think, oh, the right job to do is say, no, I'm a good PM because I've saved money. The difference between renting a 40-foot condor and an 80-foot or 100-foot condor, it's the same to deliver door to door, $75 each way. It's a difference of maybe $200. And you gotta ask yourself, well, let's see, is it cheaper to spend $200 for the bigger condor crane or scissor lift or whatever, or to have a shooting crew of 60 people stand around for 45 minutes while they re-rig it? And you think, well, 200 is looking pretty darn good now, but it's too late. So all of these things that have to do with boats and stunts and effects and everything else, you don't want to be penny wise and pound foolish. I'm sure as seasoned pros, you all know this, but sometimes you think, I can get away with this little bit, or I read this book about Roger Corman, and he just, didn't do that. And having done 12 pictures for Roger, I can tell you, every corner you'll cut is usually one you're standing on, as you go to the drink. But it's just, again, find out what you don't know. Ask others. Within the Guild, we have a great resource center and professionals to ask, oh, you did that show, well, how did you do this? Or go about other people that will be happy to answer. Of course, they want to do your show for you, so they're going to do everything they can to say, yeah, hire us. And so they become those highly paid professionals. But it's well worth it. Now then, we'll start out with another one, which I have like 19 hours worth of stories of. But have you ever left a show because of safety concerns? Well, they go, oh, no, it's going to be, it's just it's an eighth of a page. The mothership lands, or the chariots race. It's just a small section. Have you left because of something that was unsafe and they were not willing to concede?
You know what? I'd say maybe 20, 22 years ago, yes, but really, in the recent past, the last 10 or 15 years, I'd say at least as far as I'm, I'm not speaking for anybody else, but as far as the marine world goes, the sort of the recognition of what goes on the water and what you have to do to stay safe, productions have bought into it, and we don't really have, say, the issues that we might have encountered on my departments in 20 years ago.
Now, Nick, I know you have. How many is more my question.
Not as many as you might think. I can usually talk them into fixing stuff. I get a lot of my work because I can get insurance for big actors and for weird stunts. I have an insurance guy that underwrite a lot of things. Because of that, I've been what's called a safety coordinator on, I guess it'd be a reality show. And one of these shows involved two brothers that could break things. They were extremely strong. And by the fourth episode, they really did everything you saw on the show. They really tore a car apart with their bare hands. They really tore an airplane apart. I was there to just take the sharp edges off, to make sure they didn't get cut, to make sure they didn't kill themselves, because they got kind of gung-ho. By the fourth episode of the show, it was very clear that the producer did not care if they got hurt as long as you got it on camera. I left. They had a minor mishap 2 episodes later, where they were tearing apart a movie theater and pulled the concession roof down on top of themselves. And then 2 episodes after that, they were trying to take apart a mobile home, and both fell through the roof. Our job, doing stunts and special effects stuff, is actually a negative job sometimes. I get on set, or I get a script, first thing I'm thinking about is, what is absolutely everything that can go wrong? How can a camera get broken? How can a person get hurt? How can someone die? And then eliminate that. And that's where the conversations and the prep and everything come in. Sometimes you don't have the option of all this prep. Sometimes we come in and get a call to choreograph a fight that day or the next day. It's the experience that helps you try and avoid these things. I've torn up things, broken a few things. Most of my injuries have been my nose being broken by actors when they zigged when they should have zagged. Just little stuff is what gets you, though. It really is. You just have to watch all the little stuff and be as prepared as you can. But I have no problem at this point in my career telling a producer, telling a director, this is not safe, I'm not doing it, and walking away. Because my career has been very long and I've enjoyed it, everything that I've done, and I'm not going to jeopardize it because somebody thinks Jackass is a great show, and if there's blood on the set that's real, it sells its product. I won't do that.
curious, did you have like an anger management person on set for those two brothers? I mean, because obviously they could.
They were actually having
destroy the
fun too.
transport environment.
They were having a good time with the show, but that was the problem, is they weren't industry guys. One was a cop, the other guy had another job, and they were having a good time, and they were doing this stuff before the show, and they would get hurt all the time. They had one where he dove through the back window of a car, the big Firebird with a big back window. Tempered glass is hard to break, he's very strong. He really did it. What I did was I folded the back seat down and put a little pad there with some black fabric over it so he doesn't break his neck when he goes into the car. Little things like that is what we have to watch out for. And a lot of these shows, I turned down Jackass, I turned down Senseless Acts of Video, I've turned down all these shows when they were first coming out because I knew somebody was going to get hurt, and they have, you know. But there's really no reason. Accidents do happen. We get banged up. That's, you know, part of the risk that we take. But the idea is to eliminate 99.9% of that, especially when it comes to your on-screen talent. We've done stunts where, okay, I might get hurt, and then we've done things like stair falls with a short sleeve shirt down a metal staircase at Kaiser Steel, where I know this is going to hurt, but only for a couple of days, and I'll be fine. I can go back to work. There's all these variables, and we really have to look. Our job is to look. You know, even though the grips are technically the safety coordinators on set, the stunt coordinators are really in charge of all of the action safety. We can override almost anything. Talking about the Cal OSHA stuff, we violate Cal OSHA rules constantly. You know, a bucket of contact cement says don't breathe the vapors. What do? We paint it on our clothes, light it on fire. It's an area where you need the experience and the expertise and the knowledge to create the illusion of something being a lot hairier than it really is, as opposed to just doing something seat of the pants. I was interviewed and they said, what's the difference between a stuntman and a daredevil? And the answer is repeatability. You know, every stuntman wants to go through this window and land on the ground, get up, dust himself off, and say, would you like another one? Because he's fine. You don't always get that. So that's your goal, is to have the people that are going to be able to do it twice, or to get it right the first time. Something goes wrong, they trash part of your set because they didn't know what they were doing. Now you stopped, now you're rebuilding the set. Now you may be hiring someone else to replace them while they go to the hospital, and you're paying for all that.
Now, Mark, you worked with like the top directors, you know, Scorsese and Spielberg and Tim Burton and all this. Have you ever faced anything like on that, on a big show where you go, this isn't safe and they're pushing for this? Do you ever get that kind of uphill from someone that big, who most people are going to say, I'm not going to say no, I'm going to do it? I know people have rushed into stunts or other things, lighting situations where it wasn't dangerous, or it was dangerous, but they didn't want to say no to the big bonus. Have you ever had to face that?
I think a lot with that is those people got to those positions because they did listen.
Yeah.
And from a stunt coordinator's point of view, when you say, I'm doing this for safety, I need this for safety, that's when, you know, the ears should perk up. Very good friend of mine is a UPM, and he told me years ago, he says, you know, my job is to tell you no. Your job is to convince me why I should say yes. And that really stuck with me. That one of the great quotes, it was a special effects guy on Pirates. And at one point, even one of the UPMs made the comment that, you know, they're squeezing $1 so hard, $100 bills are popping out between their fingers. And he got questioned of, why do you need this? He said, I don't need it. You need it for your movie, but I don't need it. And we're all there to try to make your production go as seamlessly as possible, and I think most crew members, whoever they are, bend over backwards to try to make things happen. How many times you hear, you know, I need a gel, and, you know, the lighting guy is running over grabbing a gel. People want to make things happen. They want to make these productions go, and as Nick said, I think in this day and age, with safety bulletins and everything, people are much more aware on the set, and to have a safety meeting before, so people do not, everybody actually knows what's going on. It's not like, okay, well, we're gonna jump this car over this truck. Well, what's the dangers there? Well, that camera, you've got this cameraman, let's put that on a remote. We don't want anybody there. From a coordinator's point of view, I probably run into that a little bit more than anything in current days of let's locate that camera, or let's put it on a remote so people are safe. You've got an out of control car coming toward camera guys, and you've got your stunt guys there as safety, but if the car's out of control, you really don't know where that car is going to go. And so you just try to eliminate that factor. And yeah, your director may be a little bit upset that he didn't get the dynamic shot that he ultimately envisioned, but at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We want to go home, enjoy our family and our friends.
Because really, the only two things you're really doing there, recording sound and recording light. Putting it all together and making a bunch of money in Redbox and on Netflix and everything else. So you just want to get those two elements together, and these are the ones that help bring all that, put that neat stuff on the screen there for you. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
No. Yeah.
Going back to the non-union stuff, I don't know how many non-union producers are here, but I was just wondering, is there any basic things that we should know as producers going on set in case something comes up? You know, we're running gun. It's all done. We don't have prep time. It's like just that much and just go. And I've been in situations where I've had cameraman hanging out of the van, you know, stuff like that. So I'm just wondering, it's, you know, is there any like basic rules for that kind of, that we should keep in our minds for that kind of a program?
Common sense, and sadly it's not very common. One of my rules, especially on the lower budget stuff, but on the big ones you don't have to worry about because we're already doing it. If we're doing anything where anything can come off, okay, I'm flipping a car, it's going this way, the camera's over here. The wheel may come off and go over there. I insist on someone who knows what they're doing, not necessarily a PA, next to that cameraman who's not looking through the lens, because the camera guy will not see the wheel coming at him, he's watching the action. The best thing is to have your safety spotters, and it's worth it. It really is. We've had a couple of shows where pieces came flying off something, or something fell when it shouldn't have. It comes back down to as much prep as you can, but look for it. Look for the negatives. Look for, okay, we're going to do a fireball coming out this window. Is that camera going to get burned up? You know, one of the things that we do is, as we bet when you're flipping a car or jumping a car a long distance, we'll put a little X on the road. And I say, okay, that's where it's going to hit. And a bunch of us can, you know, hit within a few feet of that, and we bet $1 usually. 9 times out of 10, I'll come out and there's a camera sitting there. And I'm like, no, that's the first place it's going to impact. Unless you got an IMO. Crash cams are great. Put one right there, but it's going to eat it.
GoPros, that's what they're for.
It's communication. You need to know everything that's going on, and we will tell you, this is the red zone. Everybody out of here, because this is where it's all going, hopefully.
I will throw out, listen to that. There's someone who will go unnamed who was a big pyro god. Well, he did a lot of small, non-union shows, whatever, but he's a very big name in it. Certain shots and shows, people got hurt because they were too close. He goes, no, it's perfectly safe there. And they come back and their skin is sliding off their arm because they got hurt. So we found, through experience, just find out, because he carried his powder in his Porsche 924, so we could write it off on his taxes. We say, okay, so I was like, where's your car parked? Because he would make sure that that was not damaged. We lost cameras, we nearly lost people because of where he would say, yeah, this is safe. But find out where the car is parked. That's
And anytime you pull a cameraman away from his camera, he'll always say, why'd you do that? Well, there was a piece of metal flying towards you that you did not see.
Usually they grab the camera too. So you grab them and they're grabbing the rig.
Don't lose that though, or that S-by-S card. What your preps and all of that, I mean, that's a very important part of it also, for the environment you're gonna be working in, and, you know, the location, I mean, your hospital, or this and that, whatever. Are there any other particulars, other than like the real basic ones, that you would look at? I mean, on the water, you've got a whole lot of things to consider about there. And what do you look for when you're advising a producer, well, it's what we're gonna need, and yet I don't know anything about it, so I've got to investigate, I've gotta do a scout for hanging someone, or blowing stuff up, or whatever it might be. What type of things do you, from your tricks of the trade of years, know, I gotta look for this?
I don't wanna get into telling stunt stories, but
Better
really
than
good
your
yeah,
stories.
well, I don't have any good ones. Did a TV show years ago where I was coordinating, but also I was having to do the location scouts, of course, you know, because with TV, with the rotating schedule. So a lot of times I would end up going to the locations after the crew had already done their scout. And there was one particular one that stood out. We were going to run a car up over a curb, towing a trailer, over a fire hydrant, back into the road, and it was going to turn over. So they were looking for this certain type intersection, and they spent days looking for it. Finally found it. And I was still on set, so they said, would you please run by there and just give us your opinion of this before we give a go-ahead. So I ride out to the set, and I look at it, and it's perfect location, except there's a power pole right in the curb we're going over. So I called the production company, I said, or the UPM, I said, are we changing, or what, or are we doing something different? No, why? I said, there's a power pole there. We didn't see it. Now, you have all your department heads on a scout, and what it made me realize is each department head is concerned about what matters to his department. Nobody saw the power pole but me, because that concerned my department. They paid to take the power pole out for the shot.
Wow.
But again, nobody saw it because they were focused on what they needed to
Absolutely.
focus on. And so you get into an action show, don't scrimp on your coordinator or your coordinator days. If it involves action, make sure he's there, because he may see something that your other people won't. That, again, it goes back to a little bit of money up front will help you on the day you're shooting. They didn't want to bring me in on I had to take a bicycle off of a bridge, and they didn't want to bring me in when they were building the bridge over this stream. So when I got there a couple days early, instead of me going into 4 feet of water from 18 feet, I was going into 18 inches of water with a rock bottom.
Oh.
And
That would be bad.
the money and at that point they couldn't rebuild the bridge to what I needed. The bicycle got to go into 4 feet of water, and I knew I had to do it twice. But the money they saved by not bringing me out, they lost in what it cost them for me to get stunned into 18 inches of water. So again,
Squeezing the dollar and the hundreds are popping out.
yeah. So and it would have been something that could have been easily changed had it been built.
Well, I'm sure everybody, the telephone pole, we all see telephone poles, don't give them a second thought. But with water, you know, you're gonna see things, because not all of us, unless they're full-time boaters and mariners, are not gonna see the basic things that you would see. So what kind of things have you done where you're gonna go, look, think about this, people, we gotta, you know, make this safe?
Well, as far as working on the water in pre-scouting locations, one of the things that I look for that has ended up helping out production multiple times in the past is when you're out there, the director wants to film something on the ocean, or he wants to be off of a beach or something like that. I also look for locations near there that we can use, not so much as a cover set, but more as a sort of safe haven, because it's often we get out on a big body of water and the wind is up that day, or
On a chop.
a lot of chop, a lot of swell, and to not lose the day, okay, he's not gonna get his shot on the open ocean anymore, we're gonna move into a bay, but at least we had a bay within a couple of miles of us, and we could dash in there and get the shot. So that's sort of my biggest thing is where can we go, where can we dash when the weather comes up, or when you know, this location just isn't working. So that's primary for me is trying to get production to steer towards a water location where we've got a sort of a cover set.
Well, on the ocean thing, I've actually jumped off the Santa Monica Pier twice. The first time was wonderful, the second time was low tide. There's barnacles down there. Just last week, I was contacted, they wanted to do a fight sequence in a hallway, and they wanted to do some wire work. Right now, there's a very upset director because I didn't go do it, because the stage that he picked with the set had no grid. You can't do wire work if you have nowhere to hook into and you don't have the budget to bring in the trussings. You have to think about all these things that you want to have and will they work in this location. I've done, he knows Lacey Street. I did when we came out the back of the building and it was a sweatshop that was on fire. I played security guard, opened the door, turn around, the big fireball rolls out. Seems simple enough. We get ready to do it. We realize that for the heating system in the building, there's a hot gas pipe inside the ceiling. So we ended up having to build a tunnel out of drywall to get it up to where it was safe to do it. Because it wasn't scouted, because no one looked for that gas pipe, we didn't see it till the day. Here we are 3-4 hours helping the art department build this thing so we can get the shot. That was a lot of wasted time. Because everything that they needed to film after that took place after that, so we couldn't roll anything over to it. Location scouting, the poll's a great story, that's better than mine. But yeah, we've had that thing. I've had one where they're, okay, we're gonna flip a car and we want it to roll down here. We're gonna put some crash cars so it doesn't go through the windows of any of these buildings. Why? Because putting a junk car that looks like a car on the side of the road is a lot cheaper than replacing the front of a big department store. Or, I wasn't there, but same sort of thing, they did a car chase, slid around the corner and sheared off a real fire hydrant, which is kind of cool, unless you're the guy doing it. You have to face it, but yeah. They're hard to shut off too. Yeah, location scouting for what you want to do action-wise is real important. He's talking about the cover sets on the water, definitely. We were filming in a cove once, and this was our set. But we couldn't land the boats there to get anyone on or off it because they were filming there. Luckily, the Marine guy had another one, so we ended up renting some gators to run back and forth. But if it was the only place to land, you're going to have to land there. So that's why you call these guys and say, okay, what do I need? And it really, every dime you spend in pre-production saves you money in production. It really does, especially with the stuff that we do. Actors can change lines, makeup people can redo their hair a little different. A lot of our stuff, it is written in stone, what we have to do. There are certain procedures when someone's on fire, when something's being blown up, when you're got 3 boats doing a chase, but you have 6 camera boats involved. It's very complicated and very time consuming, but if you're ready when you get there, then you shoot your shot. If you're not ready, something's gonna happen.
There's someone you're always going to be answering to, and one of you is that person.
Yes.
A friendly FSO, Fire Safety Officer, Authority Having Jurisdiction. They're the most powerful person on the set. They can shut you down like that, your entire crew's unemployed. With the Marine work, do you have much interaction with the Fire Safety Officers? Even though you're on water, there's no fire, but they're still the safety part. They're looking for cable, they're looking for shorts, they're looking for how close you are to wires, and I don't know about maybe deep water.
Refueling the boats,
whatever
all
it
that
may be,
stuff, yeah.
all that stuff.
Okay.
So tell me from each of your experiences dealing with that powerful person on set, present company excluded, because you can't argue with yourself. I've seen that happen.
I can't govern my own shows either.
But,
Because I'd let me do everything.
Yeah, but what have you dealt with, or have you found a problem with that? It's something that, again, the producer should be aware of to address before you have 60 people standing around.
Well, yeah, as far as the FSO goes, he's very interested in boats too. All facets. Like Nick said, refueling boats. Sometimes we're in locations where we have to refuel boats on the water. We're up working on a lake, we have to refuel boats. He's very curious as to how we're going to handle that. So we've got hoops to jump through for that. As far as what we're doing though, our main authority on the water is the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard is our FSO. When you're working on a production, and like I said, any navigable water in the United States, the Coast Guard has jurisdiction. They again can shut you down just like that.
And they have big guns.
They've got guns because they are actually law enforcement officers in addition to Department of they used to be Department of Transportation. They're Homeland Security now. But they will shut you down for seemingly insignificant things. We work under a thing called the Passenger Vessel Safety Act. That's what they, any place we go and we want to film, that's what they beat us over the head with. You've got too many people on this camera boat. We're not going to let you build this, recreation of the Black Pearl and put 150 pirates on it. You're not going to do that. So, everything is a negotiation with these guys. But they are our authority. As far as, planning ahead and things like that, as far as producers go, figure there's going to be some interaction with the Coast Guard pretty much anywhere you are. And if you don't have your ducks in a row with the Coast Guard, they'll shut you down quick, and they don't move fast. I've seen sets.
They're government agencies.
Yeah, well, we just, I've been on sets where the FSO had a problem with something. We took a safety stand down for a few minutes, or it might have been a half an hour. We got something corrected, and we moved on that day. The Coast Guard has shut down sets, and we didn't come back that week. So think about that. That's why it's very important to have these guys on your side. And generally, they're not a problem. Again, we've got to a certain level in the ports that we go work in where they're not a problem. They know what we're trying to accomplish. They give us the leeway we need, but we have to stay in contact with them.
Now, just before I move on, one thing to add on that I've gotten from my own experience, that they may shut you down for something, a safety issue not addressed, or something that needs to be rectified that hadn't been done in advance. It's not always a coverable insurance claim. If there's an accident, yeah, they'll do that, they'll pay whoever needs to be paid, all that. But if it's something from lack of planning on the production part, yeah, might want to have a really good relationship with your insurance agent, because that may not be coverable if production, think about it, and you get shut down, or they do, or whatever. So anyway, just 2 cents to throw out.
Well, you should know this one, Mark. Or if you build a miniature that's so large that it actually is a vessel.
Oh, yeah.
On the Abyss, one of the models that they built was actually so large that it had to be licensed before they could use it on open water. It actually was a vessel, it was so large. Now we talked about the fire marshals and the FSOs. They're not really the bad guy. They're actually, sadly, unless there's someone who's done a whole lot of work with the film unit, and they rotate them out from the retirement list and stuff, they're underinformed. And a lot of time producers, ADs, line producer, whatever, will avoid them. Don't. FSO comes up, get your stunt coordinator, get your effects guy, say, oh, glad to meet you, I'm the producer, this is what we're doing today. When he gets there, explain it. So if he's got a question, you can rectify it then while you're still working. Don't hide something from him. Don't try to sneak something in, because if you're about to roll camera and he goes, wait a minute, you got a plastic gas can sitting right there, he'll shut you down. And even a half hour, can cost you money. It's a communication thing with any of the departments, but they're primarily there just, I don't want to say a babysitter, but that's basically it. They're trained to look for specific things that you may overlook. But just communicate with them. Tell them what you're doing. Tell them what you're going to do. Walk them through it. 9 times out of 10, especially if it's retired guys, he'll be sitting in craft service while you're doing it.
They would much rather be on set telling you what you need to fix before you shoot to make it right, than to be in court and say, they didn't do this, they didn't do this, they didn't do this, and you're the one shrinking into your seat.
Because they don't get paid to go to court either.
Yeah, well, it sucks. What differences, Mark, have you seen on a safety as a stunt performer, working for a coordinator, or being the coordinator and then overseeing other stunt people? Do you have any different tacts or take on the relationship there in regards to safety? If they're saying, yeah, I can do that, it's pretty easy, and your coordinator saying, no, we need to do this and this and this first. Obviously, you don't want to argue with the boss, but when you are that boss and say, well, this is what I think is safe, and they're going, no, I don't feel so good doing that. Do you find any kind of a conflict like that between both avenues of what you've done and continue to do?
I think I've been fortunate in that respect. say almost every show, the people that needed to be there, the qualified people, were there to do it. If there was, let's say, a fall through the ceiling where maybe, you know, the director wanted inside of an elevator when shooting up through where somebody's falling through and the hole's not big enough, you just, you know, okay, let's change your camera angle a little bit, let's widen the hole, and you'll get the shots you need. Mine have been very minor little adjustments here and there. There's always another solution. During the setup of the stunt itself, I look at it three ways. The way we want it to go, the way it may go, and then the uh-oh, we're in trouble, what are we going to do? And if you cover all those bases with your crew, with your camera, with your stunt people, then you should be well prepared for anything that does happen. We deal a lot with mechanical, we deal a lot with animals. They'll reach up and bite you every time. Horse is supposed to go left, he goes right. It just
Grips will do that too also.
Biting.
Yes, don't give him too much grip on his food.
and so you look at that, and if your stunt person isn't comfortable with it, you say, okay, what can I do to make you comfortable to do this? Because the performance is on him. And to me, a good coordinator will make him as comfortable as he can be to give you the best job the performer can give you.
It's really all we're doing is trying to make the director happy, who has to make the studio happy. So what they want, we try to make it safe, and whatever, either from something big and blowing stuff up, effects, stunts, boats, whatever, or just the basics of, hey, do we have enough water on the set for the 100 people that we have, or enough shade, following the laws. I mean, I come in from the little OSHA thing that still is important. It's not as cool and glamorous and cool on your reel when you blow stuff up. But it's still stuff that as producers, you gotta address and think about that for your crew. And again, find out what you don't know from other people who've done it. The local regulations, there are 28 OSHA or state OSHAs around. California has one, but other states like Louisiana does not have a Louisiana OSHA, or Texas or others. So you're under federal OSHA guidelines, and there can be differences between federal and Cal OSHA, or Washington OSHA, or something like that. So this is stuff if you haven't already, and I may be preaching to the choir here, but you want to make sure and find out the local jurisdiction, what you have to do. If it's a federal or a state jurisdiction, what you do. There can be differences between them, and sometimes that will affect how much powder you can transport, or a bomb you can manufacture, or whatever, how many people you can have on a boat. We have limitations for camera cars. People don't think about how many people can you put on a boat. Well, enough to sink it probably. But all these things you got to take into consideration, and this is why you want the brain trust of these and other individuals in our industry that will lead you to that answer.
Another little thing, hey, we've heard it many times. Oh, it's only water. Water hurts. The amount of force water can generate is incredible, whether it's coming out of a dunk tank, whether it's a wave hitting somebody, whether it's somebody doing a high fall into water. The good thing is usually if you're doing a high fall into water, you're not going to miss.
Yeah.
But
It
it
flat.
does hurt. So just because you're dealing with water and stunts around water, don't think, oh, well, that makes it a lot easier. It's just as hard, and especially high falls coming off a ship, coming off a lifeguard tower. You better enter the water correctly, or it can really mess you up.
There was an accident that happened recently that's basically shut down one of the major production companies, and it was in an effort to save money. They were filming in Bulgaria and decided to hire a local pyro guy, which could be fine. A lot of other states only require a federal license, and a lot of guys that have just federals do fireworks shows. So if you ask one of us to blow up a car, I'm going to use sand mortars, I'm going to cable the doors, we're going to blow it apart, it's going to be a simulated car explosion. They've had a few, I don't mention any states, Louisiana, where they hired a guy to blow up a car, so he loaded it with explosives. And he blows out windows, and shrapnel goes flying everywhere. This one in Bulgaria, they hired a local guy, the explosion was too big, and it was a water stunt, 2 guys on a rubber boat. One of them has recovered and he's okay, the other one was killed on the show. We were discussing earlier, just aside from water, Brandon Lee. I'm sure you've heard all the story of that. Basically, they saved a couple $100 that day by not having the gun wrangler on set. So, sometimes saving money really isn't saving money.
Yeah, PMs or producers will say, nope, I'm just gonna save money out of it. That's not the way to go. It's how to intelligently spend that money. Now, Ms. Jen?
I don't want to interrupt, can we talk about at some point the insurance that is required for all of this stuff? Are you guys able to speak to what those demands are? Because that's a huge expense, you know?
Yeah, it's expensive. Basically, for the big stunts right now, there's only 2 companies that are doing it. It's Fireman's Fund and Truman Van Dyke. And Truman Van Dyke's not doing it anymore. They farm it out to Fireman's Fund. So if you're having anything really big, it's probably going through one of their underwriters. If they don't know the stunt coordinator and they don't know the effects coordinator at this point, it's going to take a lot longer to get it, or they may not give it to you, because there has been a handful of small and fairly large accidents happening. You need the coverage. We did one years ago. Triple X came out on DVD. I had a guy go off the TV Guide building because it was live and it was the kickoff for the Hollywood Christmas Parade. We had to have $10 million worth of insurance for 3.5 seconds. That $10 million cost me $1,800 for 3.5 seconds of coverage. Don't be underinsured. It's not worth it, especially when you're dealing with stunts and action stuff. Don't, we've run across this dealing with my insurance guy that I deal with the training classes. Oh, we're just going to do a couple of fights and slide some cars. Well, they got a pipe ramp that week. If someone were to get hurt or killed on that pipe ramp, you're not insured. If it's not on the list and they don't know that you're doing it, it doesn't exist in the eyes of the insurance company. Millennium New Image is the one that's in trouble with the guy getting killed. They were huge. They did Rambo, they did Expendables. Expendables 2 is where the guy got killed. I don't know how well they're going to recover. It's a very expensive lawsuit that they're dealing with, and it was just in an effort to save some money.
Another aspect of this. Obviously, stunts and effects work together hand in hand very closely. Marine worked with stunts, probably the grips for rigging and stuff like that. Outside of the more obvious ones, what are some of the other departments or individuals y'all have to work with, contend with, in order to make your job go smoother, safer, whatever? I mean, everything from, I suppose if you're flying somewhere, the wardrobe department, and what do they need, and what do producers need to be aware of? The interaction between these various people and departments.
Take wardrobe department, not just flying people, but you have a stunt person going down a rocky ravine, and they want him to be in t-shirt and shorts. You can find stunt people that will gladly do that for you, but the stunt adjustment will be much higher than if you could talk to wardrobe and say, well, what if he's, in a pair of running leggings or something where we can get some pads in there and soften the blow that the stunt person is going to have. Transportation department, you've got a car hit to do. What kind of car are you using? Preferably you'd like one with a little more slopey hood and a little more raked windshield. So things like that, those are the things we work with. Set design, construction. Are you building a practical still set? Is there places we can go in as you're building this set and maybe slide some rubber padding in here or there to take the curse off of the guy that's taking the hit there? The more organized and detailed person your coordinator is, he'll be on top of those kind of things, and not only does it soften the blow on the stunt person doing the stunt, but it also allows that stunt person to get up and do it over and over and over again if you have a director that tends to shoot that way, that he wants 20 takes on every shot. different angles. It just, the things we can do to soften the blow that we have to take allows us to give you that top performance every time.
We deal with all the departments. Wardrobe, you've got 3 scarecrows running through a burning hallway. No, we don't want them wearing nylon jackets. You know, we need cotton, we need wool, we need that kind of thing. Hair and makeup to help your doubles to look more like the actors. What are you building the set out of? No, we can't use spray foam because we're going to have flame bars in here. There's a lot of communication that needs to happen with all the departments. Really, that's why we have production meetings. There's too many variables of all the different things we can do. I mean, just try and think, what are we going to do? What's it going to affect? We deal with camera. Are we going to have crash cameras? Are we going to have some GoPros? You know, one of the shots that seems like we're doing every other show now is cutting out part of the grill and mounting a GoPro on the radiator for crashes. It's a great shot, and you eat the camera, but you get the shot. We started using the remotes now. We have a deck inside the car and just let the camera get smashed, because you get it right up to the moment of impact. It's a great shot for a couple $100.
Yeah.
But if you're not ready for it when you get to set, you know, the camera guys, oh, you're not getting my good GoPro Blacks. Those are my good ones. So yeah, it's communication, trying to figure out what you need ahead of time, and having it all there for you.
And on the marine end, I mean, most people would think, oh, boats, water, maybe silks for the grips, and it's a camera and a grip thing. But who else do you find that you have to interact with to make it safe?
Well, again, really everybody, the Marine Department, to a large extent, really acts as a service craft for the other crafts. Very rarely do I need to sort of generate a requirement based on something I need. You know, I don't need a camera boat. The grips want to float a Super Techno 50, so I get a camera boat for them. The special effects guys, they need a boat to take care of their floating bomb. So, you know, I service that department.
That sounds hopeful.
Oh, yeah. Definitely craft service. I make sure they have their own boat lanes.
Then everybody's happy.
And you know, every production is different. Some productions we end up working hand in hand with stunts because everything we're doing is a stunt.
Right.
Effects, because everything this show is doing is an effect. The show I've been on, the show I'm on right now, I've been on since August. I've worked hand in hand mostly with the construction coordinator, because everything we're doing is an interior set of a ship, a picture boat that needs to be reproduced to look like currently existing boats. So this is just happens to be the Marine Department and the construction coordinator and the art department working hand in hand. Next show it might be just me and Transpo, because we become Transpo on the water.
Right.
But that's sort of how I approach it. The Marine Department really acts as a service department for the other crafts to actually help them accomplish their job.
Very cool. Well, unfortunately, we've only got 90 minutes on this. We have a few minutes left, so rather than go through other pre-programmed, take like 2 or 3 questions. Sir?
I've been writing them down, but I'll ask you quick then. So you guys are transporting the water. What union are the drivers?
Local 80 Marine.
So local 80 Marine.
All Marine crews are IATSE Local 80 Marine.
Cool.
Yeah, it's kind of a hodgepodge union now. We have Grips, Craft Service, Marine, and Setmetics.
The Teamsters let you guys go, huh?
Yeah, they never has.
When you're out of the country, who's the governing body? It's not the Coast Guard then.
It would be whatever body owns that body of water. You can't really go anywhere out of the country without some harbor patrol, port police, governmental, on the water sheriffs. Somebody has purview over that body of water. There's somebody you've got to get close to and make sure they're happy with what you're
Navy,
doing.
sometimes, yeah.
It could be the Navy, yeah.
People with the biggest guns.
Depending how far you get.
Because I asked this earlier and I was told, don't ask them before this starts. So I'm going to ask you again so everyone's here. So who has the final word on set safety? Effects, stunts, AD, key grip? Or is it just whoever feels it's not safe kind of rises to the top?
Really, the guy that, I guess you call him the ringleader, would be the AD. The key grip is in charge of set safety, but he's not overseeing stunts and effects rigging. Stunt coordinators, effects coordinators do that. It's communication with the AD. Normally, if we see something, we'll just say, no, we're not doing this, we'll fix it. The voice of production is usually the first AD, and he's the one that we communicate with the most after we've had our meetings with the director and do everything else. And he's kind of our voice.
From a legal end of that, which goes back to what I do on my day job, OSHA defines 3 different types of people. There's a qualified person, someone who has the ability or has years of experience doing what they're doing, that either they're years of experience or education has been certified to show that they know what they're doing. In the case of like scaffolding and stuff like that, it's the grips and camera people over that. There's a authorized person, which in order to do something, you pretty much have to be authorized by the employer. And they go, yeah, I want you to move that car, but I'm not a Teamster. Yeah, but I'm authorizing you. They may be authorized, they probably shouldn't do it. Okay, I won't go into a long story, but even though I was authorized to do something I didn't know what I was doing, I'm one of the reasons there's a fence around the water tower at Paramount. But then the competent person, which Nick was addressing, is the appointed person who will be able to recognize danger or hazard and has the authority, the legal authority, to do something about it. Remove the danger or hazard, remove all the potential victims from the area, whatever they gotta do. They may designate too, oh, we got a lot of stunts, we're gonna give it to the stunt coordinator. Or on the water, well, I'm not gonna be the competent person. And it's not a dictionary definition of what we think of competent, it's an OSHA definition. And they may designate to the Marine coordinator, say, you got any questions, man, you go to Troy. Or an animal wrangler, yeah, what do I know about a tiger who's gonna eat my child who's coming to visit on the set? You talk to those people. So it can be delegated to other people. But in most cases, it's going to be the first AD. And a lot of cases, I use in some of my teaching, they say, really, the first AD is the first one there? They're also going to be the first name on the top of the defendant list when this goes in the toilet. Okay? When they say, I don't have time for this, we got to get the first shot going on, you sometimes need to remind them, this list where you're going to be, you might want to take an extra 5 minutes to address this issue. Or they'll come and bust your chops when you're setting up a stunt, or the grips are blacking out of the house, they go, hurry, we gotta go, you know? And of course, my favorite standard answer is, if you don't like this speed, you're not gonna like the other one. And these are people you don't wanna push to get the shot and get it before the sun goes down and do all this stuff. This is all stuff that should be addressed well in advance. But anyway, that's my 2 cents. Another question there, yes? Anyway.
You obviously have your go-to people. Have you run into any problems with states and countries that require you to hire locals for tax credit?
The only requirement I know is Canada requires a match for stunt coordinator. If they hire us to go up and coordinate a show, they have to hire a Canadian match at our rate. And that person may be nothing more than a broker. That's the only requirement. Now the other one is a money thing. Some states require, they want you to hire a certain number of locals to get the tax break. Other states, I believe Arizona is one of them now, they don't care if you hire locals as long as while you're working there you pay state tax. So I've worked on a show in Phoenix and I paid tax on my income in California, Arizona, and paid federal tax. That it's a big issue now with the tax breaks and the locals and things like that, and it's becoming a bigger issue with people willing to work as locals when they're not really. And some of the states are pretty strict that aren't letting that happen. They actually, I was offered the effects coordinating job on a show called Leverage that was shooting up in Portland for 2nd season, and that Oregon requires 18 months of residency before you can join their local union because they want to employ their residents.
You'll find a lot of times too, your stunt coordinator will come to you in these local hire situations. And when you realize that we jump from Michigan to Louisiana to Atlanta, all of a sudden you have all these stunt people that are available to work. A lot of time your coordinator doesn't have a problem with hiring some of the local people, but he wants his main people that he's surrounding himself with people he has worked his career with, that he can trust. So if you're looking for an overall better product, allow your coordinator to bring in a couple of his key people and then intersperse with the local people. It's going to cost you more money up front, it's probably gonna save you tons of money in production value and production time. And I know a lot of times we get into this, we look at what it costs today, but we're not looking at what it cost on the day we're shooting. And that will bring your personal opinion here. We're getting too focused on what looks good on the production report and not necessarily what looks good for production as a whole. You know, don't order this week because it does, I don't want it on this expense on the production report. Next week I have to air freight everything in because it won't be there in time. Looks better on the production report, but it just cost you $10,000 to ship the stuff in.
Using that dollar to get those hundreds in.
Exactly.
You know what looks worse on a production report? An accident report, right? So you wanna give them time to do it. Now, Jen, you had a,
Does federal OSHA supersede state or the reverse?
boy,
That's a good question.
Fed OSHA and Cal OSHA have different standards on stuff. I know for like working on a platform, on a scaffold, federal OSHA, if you're at 6 feet, you gotta have a guardrail, you gotta have some type of fall protection. Cal OSHA says 7.5 feet. The difference between them is if Cal OSHA will make their argument that ours is no less convenient or suitable for the job. So there'll be comparisons between them. In some cases of the studios, they can go, well, it is 7.5 feet with Cal OSHA, 6 feet with Fed OSHA. We're in California, but I'm gonna go with Fed. They will usually err on the side of the more stringent. They can actually say, you know what, I got a picture on a platform that's only 4 feet high. I want a guardrail on there. Grips are going, geez, Louise, OSHA says we don't have to do that. Instead, but we're saying we do. As long as it's no less stringent than Cal OSHA or Fed OSHA, and it's not illegal or immoral, then they can require almost anything that they want for safety. There are differences between them. Sometimes production companies, any agricultural companies, whatever, may sway between the two. They're usually going to sway on the one that is more stringent and safer. But as long as it's as good or as viable as the other with no discernible difference, you can go with that. Some states are different.
But there's some states that don't have specific OSHA. And
They don't have their own
Right.
OSHA, and then you rely on Fed OSHA. Another question? Don't everybody go once. Young lady in the back there again. Oh,
What's the most rewarding part of what you guys do?
The people I work with and the friendships I've developed. The old saying is movie friends and 8x10s. It's now turned to movie friends and digital photos. It doesn't rhyme as well, but that's the reality. But it's the friendships you build and the camaraderie.
There actually is a thing that we call the Brotherhood of Stuntmen. And it goes back, way back. I was lucky enough to be mentored by one of the founding fathers of stunts. And he said that when he started, there was 6 coordinators. And one show would pop up, and these 6 guys would just beat each other up trying to get that show. And one of them got the show, and then the other 5 would work for him. and that's the way when you've got your core group. Haven't
and
seen
they
him
make
in
you look
years.
good.
Haven't
When
seen
you
him.
hire the good ones, they
Yeah.
make you look even better.
But there is a brotherhood, and we for the most part will be watching each other's backs, and in turn watching your backs.
Watching the crew's backs,
Yeah.
yeah.
None of us want a bad mark, and we all, like you said, we all want to go home. We all want to spend the big checks you don't want to give us, and
You
buy
want to
the
give cool
toys.
stories to your kids and say, look what Dad did over there, I got set on fire, did all this. Gentleman in the back there had a question.
Well, I was gonna say, a lot of it's been about not, I saw you did I Dare You and things like that.
Don't blame
Do you
me for
find-
that.
I know you have to pull producers back. Do you have to pull stuntmen back?
I have at times. What I did for I Dare You, they called me and said, we want something that no one's ever seen before. And I said, I have one, bring your checkbook. And it pissed off almost everybody else that worked that show because I was the highest paid guy there. And I did the one that ended up being in all the commercials for the show and everything else. So, honestly, I'm not sure about Marine, but we're kids. We want to play.
Yeah.
This is what we do. We have a great time, and if we're doing it right and doing it safe, then we get to keep doing it.
Well, there's, I worked at Guinness when they put the fire ban in, and there's always a guy that's like, well, I'll burn for 7 minutes, I'll burn for 8 minutes, you know, I mean, it seems like there's no.
Except they run out of fuel, you have to keep refueling now for the longer ones, but yeah.
But there again, technology has helped us in those sort of things also.
Yeah, I did burns for years before there was any burn gel. We used to call it the baked potato. You had the silver suit, and the problem was you would sweat, and then that would evaporate, and you'd get a steam burn inside the suits. So yeah, the technology that we have for everything now. I mean, the first ratchet harness I wore was a leather vest with a big metal buckle on the back. You know, the stuff we have now is so much better, and it is safer, and it changes every day. And that's part of our thing, is we've got to stay on top of this stuff too.
On that, just follow up, digital, how is that? I mean, that's kind of putting some of you guys out of business, is it not? Because they're shooting.
Nah.
No, it's changed the job description. The job description of stuntman has changed from when I got in 35 years ago. Because of technology, digital, because of pad technology, fire technology, gel technology.
Even suspension harnesses for car jumping, all the little
Yeah.
stuff.
I won't take the beating the generation before me took the beating. The kids coming out now will never take the beating I've taken
Yeah.
because of technology. And as a coordinator, you have to learn to change with the industry or you get left behind. And it's your choice. Usually when people are complaining about not working, there's usually a reason. They just need to look inside and say, okay, why am I not working? And find what that answer is. Because it's usually something you're doing or not doing.
Yeah, look, one more, okay, then we haven't taken yet, so yes.
I have a question about personal liability. Like if the UPM or the AD on that Expendables show didn't want to do it that way but was being overrode by the executive producers, where does that come in now? If there's a court case, or does it ever fall on anyone personally, or is it always only on the company and the owners of the company?
Well, the way they got the LLCs set up, it's actually pretty much now when you get sued on something like that, it's actually just the assets of the company.
Okay.
When I first started, I was on a show and the key grip rigging something before we started filming fell. And when we got the list of the lawsuit, my name was on it as the stunt coordinator. I wasn't even started yet because they made a big list. They sued everybody, and then they went, okay, we can't get any money out of these guys, we'll go after him now. The way they're set up now to protect them, it's pretty much the company, but that company has a lot of assets and a ton of money and really shouldn't have scrimped on something like that. You know, if you can get a cheaper lens package, or you're filming here in town and somebody's brother's got a 5-ton grip package that you can save $500 on, do it. There's guys out of work, there's stuff out of work. If you've got somebody that says he'll do a body burn, but he doesn't want the $100 gallon of gel, $100 is really cheap compared to skin grafts.
Sure. I just know working on ultra low budget stuff years ago, I was overrode on 2 different shows by the executive producers for stuff they didn't want to pay for. And I was like, this is crazy, this is going to be an accident. But if they're the ones holding the money and they're refusing to do it, then what can I do? Is that go up to the stunt person and say, you know.
Change the stunt, change it to make it more safe.
If you're working for a studio, I mean, ultra low budget usually is not, but they have the studio safety offices, and they have really gained strength in all the majors there. And they are there to help answer these things, because essentially you can't be fired or disciplined for refusing to do something that you deem as unsafe for yourself or for others. However, if you're doing something unsafe, yeah, you can be fired and disciplined. More and more people are for operating condors without a harness or whatever. So there are routes you can go to. OSHA may be one, they're a little slow
Yeah, there
acting.
are, but just to say in the ultra low budget world, you don't have any of that protection. So it's fine when I'm working for Sony and health and safety want to come down and check the car stunt that I'm going to do, but when I'm doing some $200,000 movie for some friends and they don't want to put workers' comp, they want to pay for that, then that's like, I can say everything I want, but really what I can do is walk away from the job.
Exactly. There are other jobs out there. It's better to
Yeah.
walk away with all your fingers and toes than
Yeah.
to go through it. Do we have time for one more? Young lady
Sure we do.
there? No, we don't.
What would you guys do if you had a stunt guy, you told him wear this safety gear, and he said I'm not going to, and everything's fine? Like, what would you do if your guy wouldn't listen to you and adhere to your safety procedures that you were
I don't
insisting
think he
on.
My
would be
guys
your
would.
guy anymore.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'd replace him.
Yeah.
It's simple as that.
There's 15 guys in the parking lot holding their resume and bag.
Yeah, but what if like
It's
similarly, there's people overriding you and saying everything's gonna be fine, just go ahead and.
You usually won't get that as a stunt coordinator. The stunt people you hire generally will listen to the stunt coordinator. I, as a coordinator, I'll never tell somebody how to perform their stunt. I will tell them what I want. And if I say, I think you're close to the fire, put your Nomex on, there's no question there.
Well, with that in mind, I'd like to thank you all for coming.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank Jack Woodwater,